I've been reading fantasy all of my life, and as a result, I read more than 400 fantasy books. And today we're gonna see what are my top 10, the best of all time. And I really believe that you will be very surprised about the books that I placed in the 9th, 7th, and 2nd position. And let's start with some honorable mention. Those books that didn't make it into this list, but that are favorite to me, that I just love them. And we will start with no other than Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Now, the only reason why this series it's not in this list is because it's been ages since I read it. It's been more than 10 years since I picked this one up, and although I believe that this is incredible fantasy, that characters are incredibly well crafted, that it's this perfection between character and plot driven, and it definitely introduced me to great characters, I'm still not sure if now, if I were to pick this one up, I would love it as much. I think I would. That's the only reason, but this is very well loved, and to me this is a fantasy modern classic. And then we go to the other end of the spectrum, those books that I've adored but that I've read not so long ago, and therefore I need them to, just solidify in my mind, in my heart, in my brain. I want time to pass, and one of those examples is Elements of Cadence by Rebecca Ross. I absolutely adored this duology. I think it's beautifully well crafted. It has this very interesting premise with characters that are matured, that are complex, and that have motivations that are not super superficial, and that you need to know them in order to understand them. We'll have this soft magic system that has a lot to do with music. There's also this fairy, this is spirits. It's just so whimsical. I loved it. And another book that I've loved so much was Piranesi. This is the kind of book that if you read the synopsis, you're like, meh, this might not be for me, but this is for everyone. Everyone should read this. I just loved it. It follows Piranesi, who is a very naive kind of character. He is trying to understand the world through the scientific observation. And I reckon this doesn't sound super thrilling, but the magic, the mystery that surrounds Piranesi is that he lives in this massive house, that he believes this is kind of like the universe, and that there's only another person there, and together they're trying to understand the magic of this house. This is the kind of book that you start because Piranesi is just so charming, that you continue because the premise and whatever is unfolding, it's mind-blowing, and it ends becoming a favorite because everything wraps up so incredibly different to what you expect. A masterpiece. Another honorable mention will be Promise of Blood, which is the first book in the Powder Mages trilogy. And the only reason why this is here, it's because I've only read the first book. And I understand that I might need more than just one book in this trilogy in order to consolidate these to an all-time favorite. But the things that I read with this book were phenomenal, and this is one of the best reads that I had last year, and it's one of my favorites. There are just so many things that really clicked with me, starting with this great blend of character and plot driven. We will also have these different points of view. One of them is going to be super political, another one is going to be more war oriented, and another one will be almost a detective-esque point of view. There's lots of humor, but the stakes are really high. We will have a prophecy, a hard magic system that it's divided in 3 different layers. So all in all, for me, this wrapped a lot of things that were incredible to read, and I just cannot wait to continue reading this. And the last honorable mention will be A Court of Thorns and Roses, the trilogy. Now, this isn't within the top 10 Hall of Fame fantasies, but it has really made a point for me. Like, it really changed my love for reading. It helped me discover fantasy romance, which is something that I really like, and it really brought me back to reading, and for that will always have a special place in my heart. But let's get now into the proper ranking, and we'll start the top 10 with something that it was so complex to me to settle, and that is the Shadow of the Fox trilogy by Julie Kagawa. Now, If I could have an 11th book here, I would have added the Founders Trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. And honestly, the two of them were competing for this position because I really believe that both are series trilogies that I really enjoyed. However, Shadow of the Fox has such an important place with me. I know this is not the best fantasy, but to me, it really clicked. It has so many elements that, again, vibe with me. The first thing is that it has this feudal Japanese setting, which is my favorite. We will also have this core status core, which is one of my favorite tropes. We have a grumpy and a sunshine kind of characters, which makes for a super funny relationship to read. It has a spring of romance, but it's very much a fade to black kind of story. And moreover, it has a very interesting premise. It's very adventurous, very plot driven. The pace, it's fast, but the characters have a good depth to them, and I really love them. This is the kind of guilty pleasure that I enjoyed, I rejoiced, and that I really believe that you can read as well and really enjoy. We will follow two main points of view here. One of them is of Yumeko. She is a kitsune, so she's half woman, half fox. She needs to take care of this small piece of a scroll and take it to safety, because if this scroll is put together, then a dragon will emerge, and that dragon may grant one wish. So everyone is trying to chase down that scroll, and Yumeko is on the flee. And along that way, she will meet the second point of view of Tatsumi. He is a shadow samurai, and although he has his own secret agenda, he will align forces with Yumeko. The ambience, it's beautiful. I just really enjoyed it. It also packs a very emotional punch to the heart, and I think it's perfection. In the top 9, and let me know down below if you're surprised about this one, but we have an underdog of a standalone, and that is Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So this was one of my favorite books of last year, and I think that it's great because it's almost this historical fantasy. It's very low on magic, and it has this incredible taste of a Jane Austen kind of a story with the stakes that are high and overall talking about war. It has this great enemies to lovers, and it is told in a way that it's slightly different, because we will start with an event that is happening and that it's savage, and then we will really properly start the book in the past, and we will see how our characters move till that moment, and from that moment onwards into the future. So that will allow us to understand better this Regency setting of our characters, understanding their motivations. I really adored the pining, this really hating each other, as well as how the characters developed throughout the war, the decisions that they needed to make. And I knew this book was going to be a favorite since I was reading kind of like the first 5-10 pages, so it's really a hit for me. In the 8th position, we have the Red Rising series, especially the first trilogy, which is the only thing that I've read so far. This is just so good. I knew the series was really loved, and I was not so sure that this was going to be a hit for me, but it is chef's kiss. It has so many good things. It's deeply political. It really revolves around war, but we will have this really thrilling premise, which is that this society has been divided in different layers, and each of these layers kind of like represents a color. The lowest are the reds, and the highest top rank of this society, it's the golden ones. And we will have a revolution kind of a story with our main man, Darrow, trying to infiltrate this golden layer, and he trying to break everything from within. Book 1, it's really a Hunger Games kind of a story, but Book 2 and Book 3 just changed so much. The stakes become enormous, gigantic, and I really enjoyed it. The characters are great, the motivations are complex, the scenarios that you need to understand are ever changing. There are so many good twists. It's just a read that will change you for the better. Pierce Brown has this ability of being able to convey really raw emotions in such vivid scenarios. You can see what happens very, very clearly. In the 7th position, and I bet you're gonna be surprised that this is here, we have the Mistborn trilogy. Mistborn is within my favorite reads of all time, 100%. And the only reason why this is here and not above is because, again, I picked it up so long ago that I know that my tastes might change a little bit, but still I've read enough within the Cosmere, and also I've reread parts of these different books throughout these years. I picked up Mistborn Era 2 and I feel comfortable that I understand properly the story, the stakes, the writing style enough to know that this should be here, but it's still been a solid minute since I read this trilogy because Mistborn, I know that I love fantasy. The magic system that it's presented to us here is one of the best ones that I read in my life. We will have here a story that follows very charming but grey but really compelling characters, and although it's a heist at its core, the trilogy overall also talks about rebellion, because we will live in this society where the evil one has been ruling for hundreds of years, and we will have this society that is really oppressed, and then our characters will start to do something different. The great thing here, again, it's the magic. We will have allomancy, and this consists on certain people being able to ingest metals, and each of those metals has the potential to do something different. It allows you to have powers. And so what you will see here is just a story that has a very good pace, that has characters that are very well fleshed out, that are complex, that have very pulling different motivations, the political setting as well as a romantic interest. It's phenomenal. And in position number 6, we have The Drowning Empire by Andrea Stewart. And being honest, this is something that to me should be in the top 5, and the only reason why it's not there, it's because I am still to read the last book that is already released. So I'm hoping that once that I read the last book, this will be just being pumped up till the top 5, even top 3, but I've loved book 1, loved even more book 2, and I'm sure I will adore book 3. This is a story that it's very political, that has a wide cast of characters, and those characters are placed in different moments, and it will follow different points of view. Book 1 will start with around 5-6 different points of view, and that will be reduced in book 2. The most important ones are, in one hand, this girl called Lean, who is the daughter of the emperor, and this family has the ability to take bones, inscribe instructions, then put those bones together in these creatures, command those creatures, and then create these constructs. But the downside is that these bones are extracted from people, and these creatures are sucking the life of the people. So it's a very dangerous threat, and things will happen there. Another point of view is going to be of Jovis. He just wants to be alone, he wants to find his wife, and along the way he will find himself in the path of being a hero. It seems that there's this massive danger that it's emerging again. It's just fantastic. I really am in awe to what this author was able to create. It has this horror sci-fi touch to it, and I just loved how adventurous, political, well crafted was this story. In the 5th position, we have The Poppy War by Erf Kuang. This is a story that I reckon it's not for everyone. It is deeply war driven. It's not that war is there, but like this is properly just talking about the war and how it unfolds, and we will see how savage it is for a lot of pages. So it's a war driven book. It's also a deeply strategic book. It has this political side to it, and we will have a deeply grey character, very unlikable. She wants to be more. She wants to take her role, and she wants to change the society, but the decisions that she will make and the way in which she will be drawn to this war and the things that she will do will be really complicated to resonate with. However, at the same time, you will want the best for her and her surroundings, and that is what will keep you just hooked to those pages. It will potentially make you cry, make you mad. And the premise of this is that we will have this girl that enrolls into this martial school, but not long after our war starts to be unraveled. And she will discover that she might have an affinity as a shaman, she might be able to do a little bit of magic, and the story unfolds from there. And the reason why it is here is because Erev Kwan has this ability of taking emotions that are really raw, that are really intense, and packing it in a way that you read it and you feel them as well. So be ready to read some things that are savage. In the 4th position, we will have The Aurelian Cycle by Rosaria Munda. It's perfect because so many reasons. It has dragons, it's really political. The dynamics between the characters are really complex. It's not a book that will give anything granted. Our characters will suffer. And above all, our characters will live in the aftermath of a revolution, and we will have a lot of discussions around how is this society better, how is it not, and a potential new revolution that it's coming. The great thing here is that we will follow 2 different points of view, and those points of view cannot be different. In one hand, we will have Annie, which is one of the characters that I've resonated more in my life. She is potentially one of my favorite characters of all time. I just love her, and she is an orphan. All of her family was killed by the Dragon Lords, and they were this layer in the society that hold control. They were the only ones able to ride dragons, and they were mean. Therefore, people killed them, except for Lee, who is the other point of view that we will see here, and he is the only heir of this family of dragon lords. They meet when they are orphans, but they really know who is who. They become friends, and they are now in this moment where the society has completely changed, and now everyone can ride dragons, and they are about to compete for the control of the dragon fleet. This is peak political fantasy in my opinion, and I thought how the character, especially of Annie, was developed was brilliant. How she dealt with insecurities, with the motivations, with ambition, to love, romance. It was just so realistic. It just really inspired me. This made me cry multiple times, at the same time made me be better, and I think everyone should read this. And reaching the top 3, we have the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee, with the first one, Jade City. Now this is a story that touches topics that I didn't think were for me, but it turns out I love them. For example, it's an urban fantasy, and it has a lot to do with different bands, their rivalry, and it has been described as a fantasy version of The Godfather. And to me, it was like, meh, this is not necessarily my jam. But it definitely is. It is outstanding. The way in which this is done, it's chef's kiss. It's very character driven, but the stakes are high, and the pacing was really on point for me. And we'll follow the story of this land called Kaikon, and in here there's the jade, and there are special people that can be able to wear this jade and therefore have special powers. The thing is that there are 2 bands fighting for the control of this jade, and we will mainly see the points of view of one of these different bands called No Peak. And in here there are these different siblings that are fighting, that are ruling, that are facing lots of challenges, and we will follow them in a way that you will know them. They will become real people to you, and there are some scenes in each of those books that will be with you forever, that are heartbreakingly beautiful and sad. There are others that are really well done. It's a great blend. Characters are complex. All of them are grey. It's deeply political, but also war-driven. I love that. I just think that this will have a special place in my heart forever. And let me know if you're surprised, because in the 2nd position we have Sword of Kagan, another standalone. Devoured this book in 1 day and a half. I just ugly cried with it, and it has, again, so many good things that made it a perfect match for me, and I believe that everyone should read it. Like, please, take it from the video, take it. Do you have it? Cool, now read it. It will follow characters that are pretty unique, especially a mother and a son that belong to the family called the Matsudas. And they are the ones that are the last resort towards invasion. And then something happened and they will need to step up as a family. All of them will need to have a special role. It is character-driven perfection with scenes that rival Brandon Sanderson. And to me, there was a moment in which I truly felt that Sanderlanche. And again, there are some lines that for me are gonna be forever. Now thinking even about them, I am still moved. It has great stuff. It is set also in this almost feudal Japanese setting, but will be blended with some modern elements. There's going to be elemental magic, which I adored, especially we will see lots of ice magic, and it's unique, it's beautiful. The thing that they create, it's fantastic, and this is a must. And in the top 1 we have Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Now, yes, this is unconcluded, and yes, this is massive, and it's gonna be even more massive, but it's just so good. I love it because it's, to me, the ultimate perfect blend between character driven but with a plot that it's just mind-blowing, with the stakes that are incredibly high, with a magic system that is complex, that evolves over time, with characters that are very well crafted, and especially this series, I think, touches on different mental illnesses in a way that felt really relatable, that it really deeply moved me. These characters are a thing for me, like I feel deeply for them. At its core, this is the story of a war between different species, but the thing is that within the humans we also have different bands, and there's gonna be therefore a very political side with characters that are, yes, bad, and there are others that are really inherently good, and I just think that it's so inspiring at the same time. We will follow one of these characters who is Kaladin. He is a bridgeman and he is placed in the situation, it's the worst within the war. Then we also follow this colonel then we also will be following this Gord, then we'll be also be following this colonel within the war. There's also this student that is starting to unravel the power of magic, and overall this world, it's massive. It's also very Cosmere aware in the sense that we will have these different wool hoppers going into different worlds, but we'll also have this representation of different layers of reality. We will have clearly the physical, the cognitive, and the spiritual realm. Spiritual, not as clearly, but that plays a fantastic role here. So the magic, I thought it was really well crafted, and there's a lot to be understood. I don't want to unveil what it has because it's something that you start to understand and that you need to read. And these were my 10 favorite fantasy books / series of all time. Let me know down below what are yours, if you were surprised or not, and also recommendations. I cannot wait to see what you think.